Truth Unveiled here, and today I'm going to be talking about a very urgent topic that has not been getting as much of attention. I wonder why that is, but it says, and I'm from the New York Post, drug-resistant superbug hits the US, and it's the first time ever that this has happened. Now, why hasn't this been getting as much attention? I wonder the reason, but I'm also going to be telling you the bigger agenda behind this because your mainstream media and the alphabet soups aren't going to tell you this stuff. So it says that the ultimate superbug has reached American shores. Doctors have discovered a powerful strain of E. coli that is resistant to the antibiotic of the last resort, colistin, in the urinary tract of a Pennsylvania woman who sought treatment at a military hospital. And mind you, this is what they're telling us. Do not believe the hype and the fear-mongering that is mainstream media. But it goes on to say, it's not clear how the patient who hasn't recently traveled out of the US contracted the bug, because it's never clear, is it? Medical experts fear the pan-resistant bacteria will easily overpower current drugs. It basically shows us that the end of the road isn't very far away for antibiotics, CDC Director Tom Frieden told the Washington Post, and we're going to be going to the Washington Post in a second. Now, like I said, later on I'm going to be telling you the bigger agenda behind all this, because what you should be thinking about is what are they getting ready for and why are they pushing these superbugs at such a time as this. And when you understand what time it is, then you start to understand what's really going on behind all this. Because I'm here at the Washington Post and it says the superbug that doctors have been dreading has just reached the United States. And it says a CRE, a family of bacteria pictured here, is considered one of the deadliest superbugs because it causes infections that are often resistant to most antibiotics, according to our favorite, the CDC and Reuters. Now it says for the first time, researchers have found a person in the United States carrying bacteria resistant to antibiotics of last resort, an alarming development that the top U.S. public health official says could mean the end of the road for antibiotics. The antibiotic-resistant strain was found last month in the urine of a 49-year-old Pennsylvania woman. Defense Department researchers determined that she carried a strain of E. coli resistant to the antibiotic colistin, according to a study published Thursday in the Antimicrobial Agents and Chemotherapy, a publication of the American Society for Microbiology, and I'm going to be taking you to that study in just a second. The authors wrote that the discovery heralds the emergency of a truly pan-drug resistant bacteria. Or does this sound like a problem reaction solution, as in they as in your lovely government, they as in these alphabet soups, they're the ones who cause all this, and then this is their solution by saying that, oh, no antibiotics is going to work. I wonder what it is, but it talks about the antibiotic, which is known for particularly dangerous types of superbugs, including a family known as the CRE, which health officials have dubbed nightmare bacteria. In some instances, these superbugs kill up to 50% of patients who have become infected. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has called CRE among the country's most urgent public health threats, because there's always a threat, isn't it? And who's the one calling it? What if I told you that they're the ones who's causing it to begin with? Oh, the irony's real, and I know, but it's time that you see what's actually happening in the world around you. But it says health officials said the case in Pennsylvania by itself is not cause for panic. The strain found in the woman is still treatable with other antibiotics, but researchers worried that its colistin-resistant gene, known as the MCR1, which is what we're going to be going over later on, could spread to other bacteria that can already evade other antibiotics. This is the first time that this colistin-resistant strain has been found in a person in the United States. In November, public health officials worldwide reacted with alarm when Chinese and British researchers reported finding the colistin-resistant strain in pigs and in raw pork in a small number of people in China. It was then later discovered in Europe and elsewhere, and now, according to them, it has finally hit America. It basically shows us that the end of the road isn't very far away for antibiotics, that we may be in a situation where we have patients in our intensive care units, our patients getting urinary tract infections for which we do not have antibiotics, says CDC Director Tom Frieden in an interview back on Thursday. Sounds like problem, reaction, solution to me, because if they don't have the cures for the diseases that they're causing, what does that tell you? I'll let you figure that out on your own. But then it goes on to talk about how the Agriculture Department and the Department of Health and Human Services have also reported the testing of hundreds of livestock and retail meats that turned up with the same colistin-resistant bacteria in a sample from a pig intestine in the United States. And the USDA said that it's working to identify the farm that the pig came from. What if I told you that they had a hand in this as well? I'm telling you, this goes much deeper than you think. You're going to see the real agenda and how this relates to martial law and quarantines and the New World Order in just a second. Now, the Washington Post goes on to talk about the effective measures that they're taking to fight off this threat, because there's always a threat, isn't it? But I'm at everybody's favorite. I'm at CNN, which also talks about it and reports it as well. Now, I'm not going to go into all of it because we've already talked about some of the things, but I wanted to talk about this part because I thought it was interesting and you need to see it when it says that the CDC and the Pennsylvania Department of Health mobilized immediately to investigate the case and to trace contacts the patient may have had to see whether the bacteria had spread. The woman was treated and released and has no other medical problems related to the bacteria that we know of, according to Dr. Alex Callan, a medical officer with the CDC. The CDC said it is looking for other potential cases in the healthcare facility that the patient visited. The bacteria have been identified in other infections outside the United States. They even saw supposed cases, at least that's what they want us to believe, in Europe, Canada, and China. But of course, it talks about how the USDA also found one strain of colistin-resistant E. coli in a single sample of a pig intestine, according to a statement from the Department of Health and Human Services. And it says, what does it say? These two cases are what the CDC characterized as a warning sign more than a catastrophe, according to Dr. Alex Callan. Now, it's interesting because I'm telling you, what are they getting ready for? I'm telling you, this is the building blocks. These are the building stages to the New World Order, to the nationwide pandemic, because that is what they're preparing for, and they're slowly mentally conditioning all of us. Now, will this be the superbug that they try to feed us, and will this be the story that they try to feed us that, oh, it's spreading and that's why we need to put everybody in quarantines? Will this be the one? Will it be Zika virus? I don't know, but we're seeing it spread more and more, and we know exactly who's causing it. And if you still don't know who's causing it, I'll let you know in just a second, but I'm telling you, it's time to see the warning signs ahead of time and just see how they're mentally programming you and mentally conditioning you for the worst with all the fear mongering that they're doing. What time is it really? Because you cannot have a new world order without the fear of a pandemic, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. But I'm here at NHV, which also talks about the MCR-1 in the United States and how it's sparking widespread concern. Now, it says, last month, a specific antibiotic-resistant strain of E. coli has been found in the United States for the first time ever. The discovery has aroused a lot of concerns among medical experts who are afraid of drug-resistant bacteria. Now, with the detection of the strain of bacteria in the United States, many are probably hunting for more information related to the bacteria and its likelihood of spreading. Scientists are worried about it spreading to other bacteria, because once it's spread, then everybody's going to contract it. Then it's going to be a worldwide concern. Is that what they're getting ready for? Is that why they're spreading it? They as in the CDC, they as in the DHHS, they as in the WHO. Exactly, because they're trying to get this New World Order triggered and started, and this pandemic started that they're causing any single way they can. But it says that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services said that the strain of bacteria, a gene known as MCR1, was spotted in a Pennsylvania woman previous month. HHS reported that it was the first time when scientists and public health officials have spotted a strain of bacteria in E. coli resistant to colistin, which is a long considered last resort drug for people suffering from multi-drug resistant infections. And notice how they're trying to say, oh, well, the antibiotics aren't working. Oh, nothing's fighting it off. Oh, nothing's actually working. What is the bigger agenda behind all this? But you can read it more on your own. And now I'm going to take you to MCR-1 and the actual reports, as well as what the WHO has to say about this. Now I'm here at the World Health Organization website, and I'm at its media center, and it says antibiotic resistance, which was a fact sheet reported back on October of 2015, because they're already mentally conditioning your mind subliminally. But it says, and here's some key facts, that according to the WHO, antibiotic resistance is one of the biggest threats to global health today. Oh yeah, because there's always a threat. They love using that word. It can affect anyone of any age in any country. See, that's what they try to do, is they try to say, oh, it can affect anyone, it can affect everybody. That's why we need a new world order to combat this threat that we're causing. Oh my goodness. But it goes on to say antibiotic resistance occurs naturally, but misuse of antibiotics in humans and animals is accelerating the process. A growing number of infections such as pneumonia, tuberculosis, and gonorrhea are becoming harder to treat as the antibiotics used to treat them become less effective. Antibiotic resistance leads to longer hospital stays, higher medical costs, and increased mortality. But what if I told you that they found the cures to all of these diseases that they list, such as pneumonia, tuberculosis, gonorrhea, and other diseases such as cancers, AIDS, and all the other ones? What if I told you that they've been found the cures a long time ago? And what if I told you that the medical system is just designed for what? So that to keep you sicker and sicker. It's to do what? To poison you even more and to make your immune system and weaken it even more, when they know darn well that herbs and herbal cures and herbal remedies are the way to go. But they're not going to tell you that. Big Pharma does not want you to know that, because they want you to keep taking medicines to get you sicker and sicker. And now it's getting to the point where they're trying to say, oh, there's a big threat. Oh my goodness, there's a big threat. And now antibiotics can't even fix it. What are we going to do when they're the ones who are the ones causing it to begin with? And they're saying how it leads to all these different problems when they're the ones causing the problem to begin with. And I hope you're seeing how they're causing the problems and just where the problem is coming from, because like I said, this goes much deeper than you think. Like I said, this is only just the beginning, but like I said, they've been telling us truth all along, because if you've seen the movie The Fifth Wave, and I've done a video covering The Fifth Wave, you'll know that one of the waves that was there was in fact the wave of a nationwide pandemic after destruction and a power outage, a nationwide power outage, by the way. Oh, very interesting. And we're starting to see the building blocks of this take place, because they're already mentally conditioning you for what's to come. But the question is, are you seeing it with both your eyes open? I hope so, because I'm here at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and this is the actual report, but that says proactive efforts by U.S. federal agencies enable early detection of new antibiotic resistance. And the summary says that our 3 departments take the emergence of this resistance gene very seriously. A coordinated response is underway to try to prevent its spread. And it says just over a year ago, President Obama released a National Action Plan for combating antibiotic-resistant bacteria. As part of that plan, he also charged the Department of Defense, so more alphabet soups, Department of Agriculture, USDA, and the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, with co-chairing a Presidential Advisory Council on Combating Antibiotic-Resistant Bacteria Advisory Council. In the past year, our 3 agencies, more alphabet soups, and the council have held numerous stakeholder meetings, made new discoveries, and undertaken new research to preserve the effectiveness of antibiotics. What if I told you that in these meetings, they're the ones who are staging these diseases to begin with? They're the ones who are planning these superbugs to begin with and causing them. It's even been proven that the Rockefellers are the ones who fund the so-called Zika virus, and that it doesn't come from a mosquito like they like to say. I'm telling you, that's what they do. But it goes on to say, in recent weeks, our 3 agencies have made some very important discoveries regarding antibiotic resistance in the United States. Earlier this week, the Department of Defense notified stakeholders that its Multi-Drug Resistant Organism Repository and Surveillance Network, or the MRSN, at the Walter Reed Institute of Research had identified the first colistin-resistant MCR-1 E. coli in a person in the United States. A USDA and HHS search for colistin-resistant bacteria in food, animals, retail meats, and people also has found colistin-resistant E. coli in a single sample from a pig intestine. These discoveries are of concern because colistin is used as a last resort drug to treat patients with multi-drug resistant infections. Finding colistin-resistant bacteria in the United States is important, as it was not only last November that scientists in China also first reported that the MCR-1 gene in bacteria confers colistin resistance. And notice how they do it little by little. So it's not some giant collapse, but it starts off little by little by little by little. And that is what they're trying to do. But it goes on to say that following the revelation in China, scientists across the world began searching for other bacteria containing the MCR-1 gene, and the bacteria have since been discovered in Europe and Canada. The MCR-1 gene exists on a plasmid, a small piece of DNA that is not a part of a bacterium's chromosome. Plasmids are capable of moving from one bacterium to another, spreading antibiotic resistance between bacterial species. The patient with colistin-resistant E. coli was treated in an outpatient military treatment facility in Pennsylvania. Biologic samples were sent to the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center for initial testing and then to MRSN for genetic sequencing to identify the MCR-1 gene. Our three departments take the emergence of this resistance gene very seriously. And some serious alarm bells should be ringing for you when all of these three departments, when all of these alphabet soups are taking these things seriously. What are they getting ready for? But it goes on to say a coordinated public health response is underway to try to prevent its spread, because that's always the agenda. Then they talk about how they want to respond to it, and how, according to them, how the NARMS is continuing its search for evidence of colistin-resistant bacteria in the United States, and what they're trying to do to approach this problem, because it's the same agenda over and over and over and over, how they want to understand the gene and just what they're getting ready for. Because I'm telling you, there's always something bigger behind all this. They're not going to tell you why, because keep the secrets. And like I said, if you watch the movie Fifth Wave, you'll see and know exactly what they're coordinating and exactly what time it really is. Now, this is the actual report that comes from the American Society for Microbiology, which is also known as the Antimicrobial Agents and Chemotherapy. You can find the report here. Now, I'm not going to go over all of it, but I will link it below so that you can see it yourself, because it talks about the MCR-1 and where it came from. Now, it says the recent discovery of a plasmid-borne colistin-resistant gene, known as the MCR-1, heralds the emergence of a truly pan-drug resistant bacteria. The gene has been found primarily in E. coli, but has also been identified in other members from human, animal, food, and environmental samples on every continent 2 to 5. In response to this threat, starting in May of 2016, all ESBL producing E. coli clinical isolates submitted to the Clinical Microbiology Laboratory at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center were tested for resistance to colistin by E-test. Herein we report the presence of MCR-1 in an E. coli culture from a patient with a urinary tract infection in the United States. So in conclusion, we see yet another superbug, yet another threat, and we know this is just more fear-mongering and more scare tactics from the government and the alphabet soups, the same ones who are funding these incurable diseases, so to speak, even though they found the cures to begin with. Please seek Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha, because as you can see, these are the beginning blocks and the beginning stages of what's to come. They're only going to keep pushing this agenda more and more. This is only just the beginning. It's only going to go downhill from here. But this is Truth Unveiled. Here's keeping you updated and saying, as always, shalom.